Have you ever wondered why, even in a loving relationship, some people keep seeking approval or attention from others? It's not about love, it's about something deeper, something within themselves. Today, we're diving into the real reason why people crave validation outside of their relationships and why it's not always what it seems. Insecurity is one of the quietest yet most powerful forces that can shape how we behave in a relationship. It's subtle at first, almost invisible, but it lives inside you, whispering doubts that slowly take control over your thoughts and actions. People who struggle with insecurity often carry a fear that they are not enough, not smart enough, not beautiful enough, not interesting enough, not lovable enough. This fear doesn't always show up in loud arguments or obvious conflicts. Sometimes it shows up in the way you hesitate before sending a message, in the way you overanalyze a partner's words, or in the way you constantly wonder if their attention is enough. It's exhausting because no matter how much love is given, no matter how many times your partner reassures you, insecurity finds a way to creep in and demand more. It makes your heart restless, always searching for confirmation that you are worthy, that you are desired, that you matter. This fear of not being enough can push people to seek validation outside the relationship without even realizing it. It isn't always conscious. Often it's a habit formed from early experiences or past disappointments. When someone fears that their partner's love might not be permanent or fully certain, they start looking for little affirmations from others. It can be a compliment from a friend, attention from a colleague, or even social media recognition that temporarily soothes the anxious part inside. Each external acknowledgement becomes a temporary bandage, a way to quiet the persistent voice in their head that says, "You're not enough on your own." Insecurity makes you feel like your partner's love should always be proving itself, always being measured against a standard that only exists in your mind. And the moment you feel it might fall short, your mind searches for reassurance elsewhere. Insecure people often compare themselves to others, silently measuring their worth against strangers or acquaintances. They notice the way someone else is complimented, admired, or recognized and wonder why they don't receive the same attention. This constant comparison is not about jealousy. It's about the deep fear that they are missing something essential, that they are lacking in ways their partner might eventually notice. And because insecurity is so deeply rooted in self-perception, no amount of love or care from a partner can fully erase it. Even when the relationship is strong and healthy, the mind can still feel hollow, searching for external validation to fill a void that exists inside. Low self-esteem is one of the most overlooked reasons why people constantly seek validation outside of their relationships. It's not always dramatic or obvious. Often it hides behind smiles, polite conversations, or the appearance of confidence. People with low self-esteem don't truly feel secure in who they are, and as a result, they rely on external sources to tell them that they are enough. It doesn't matter how much love or attention they receive from their partner. Inside, they are constantly asking, "Am I really worthy of this? Am I truly loved? Or is it just temporary?" That inner voice, which questions every action and word, can make them feel small and inadequate even when their relationship is strong. They look for reassurance everywhere, sometimes in places they shouldn't, because their own self-acceptance is fragile and incomplete. Low self-esteem makes people hyper-aware of approval and attention. A compliment from a colleague, a text from a friend, a reaction on social media. These become lifelines, little boosts that temporarily make them feel seen and valued. It's not that they want to hurt their partner or betray the relationship. It's that they are trying to fill a void inside themselves, a hole that hasn't been filled by their own self-love. The danger is that this search for external validation becomes addictive. Each acknowledgement from someone outside the relationship becomes a quick fix, a way to silence the inner critic for a while, but it never lasts. The root of the problem is never addressed because the focus is on others rather than on building a foundation of self-worth within. Low self esteem also shapes how people interpret their partner's actions. A simple delay in response or a casual comment can feel like rejection, feeding the belief that they are not enough. This makes them more likely to look elsewhere for approval, sometimes unconsciously testing if they are capable of attracting admiration from other people. In doing so, they hope to prove something to themselves, that they are desirable, that they are noticed, that they are worthy. What they don't realize is that the validation they seek externally can never truly replace the self-assurance they lack. No number of likes, messages, or compliments can heal the sense of inadequacy that has lived inside them for years. Low self-esteem is not something that disappears overnight, and it is not a flaw to be ashamed of. It is a feeling, a mindset, and a habit of the mind that has been shaped over time. But while it persists, it quietly dictates behavior, leading people to seek affirmation outside the relationship, not because of a lack of love, but because of a lack of belief in their own value. Unmet emotional needs are one of the most common reasons people seek validation outside their relationships, and yet they are often misunderstood. It's not always about neglect or a lack of love. It's about a gap between what someone deeply craves and what they feel they are receiving. Every human being has emotional needs, needs to feel seen, heard, appreciated, and valued. When these needs are not met consistently, it creates a quiet tension inside, a subtle restlessness that can grow louder over time. Even in a relationship where love is present, if someone feels that their partner doesn't fully understand them or recognize their feelings, they may unconsciously start looking for that recognition elsewhere. It's not necessarily betrayal, it's the mind and heart trying to find balance, trying to feel whole in ways that haven't been satisfied. When emotional needs are unmet, the mind starts seeking small doses of reassurance from outside sources. A compliment, attention, or even casual acknowledgement from someone else can temporarily soothe the emptiness inside. It becomes a way to validate one's feelings, a method to feel alive and valued, even if just for a moment. This is why some people constantly check for approval from friends, social media, or colleagues. These external interactions provide a sense of connection that may feel missing at home. It's important to understand that this behavior is rarely about a lack of love for the partner. It's about a longing for emotional fulfillment that hasn't yet been fully addressed or communicated. Unmet emotional needs often stem from miscommunication or differences in love languages. One partner may express love through actions or practical support, while the other craves words of affirmation, physical affection, or constant reassurance. When these needs are not met in the way someone internally desires, they feel invisible or undervalued, even in a seemingly healthy relationship. Over time, the mind starts looking elsewhere for signs of emotional validation, not to replace the partner, but to temporarily fill the gap that exists internally. What makes this even more complicated is that people often feel guilty about these feelings. They might love their partner deeply, but still find themselves craving attention from others. This guilt can create confusion and further insecurity, making it harder to address the root cause. The truth is, unmet emotional needs are a signal, a reminder that emotional connection, understanding, and communication are essential in any relationship. The habit of people pleasing is subtle, often disguised as kindness, generosity, or being easy to get along with. But beneath it lies a deep and persistent need for approval. People who fall into this habit have often learned, consciously or unconsciously, that their value depends on how much they please others. They grew up receiving love, recognition, or acceptance only when they met certain expectations. And over time, this pattern becomes ingrained. In relationships, this manifests as constantly seeking reassurance, bending over backward to avoid conflict, or putting the partner's happiness above their own. While this may seem like devotion on the surface, it is rooted in insecurity and the fear of not being enough. People pleasers rarely recognize their own needs because they have been conditioned to prioritize external validation over internal fulfillment. When someone has the habit of people pleasing, they often find themselves seeking attention or approval outside the relationship almost automatically. It's not necessarily because they are unhappy with their partner or the love they receive, but because approval from one source, no matter how reliable, never feels sufficient. Their mind craves reinforcement from multiple channels, constantly asking, do others see me as valuable? Am I doing enough? Am I enough? This craving can lead to looking for small affirmations elsewhere, whether it's through friends, colleagues, or even strangers. Each external acknowledgement temporarily quiets the voice inside that insists they need constant validation, but it never addresses the root of the problem, the internalized belief that their worth depends on pleasing others. People pleasing also affects the dynamics within a relationship. It creates an imbalance where one partner may feel suffocated by the constant need for reassurance, while the other feels a chronic sense of inadequacy despite the love and effort they give. The people pleaser may overcompensate in the relationship, doing more than necessary, apologizing for things they haven't done, or sacrificing their own happiness to maintain harmony. Yet internally, they remain anxious, always questioning whether their efforts are enough and seeking external validation to fill the persistent void. Breaking free from this habit requires self-awareness and courage. It requires recognizing that love and acceptance are not earned through constant giving or appeasing. People must learn to honor their own needs, set boundaries, and find validation within themselves rather than depending entirely on others. Until this shift happens, the pattern of seeking reassurance outside the relationship will continue, quietly influencing decisions, behaviors, and emotional responses. The thrill of attention is a subtle but powerful force that can drive people to seek validation outside of their relationships. It's not always about dissatisfaction or a lack of love. Sometimes it's about the rush, the excitement, and the instant gratification that attention from others brings. When someone receives admiration, compliments, or flirtatious gestures from people outside their relationship, it triggers a psychological high, a small dopamine boost that makes them feel alive, desirable, and noticed. This feeling can be addictive because it temporarily fills emotional gaps, silences self-doubt, and validates self-worth in ways that feel immediate and tangible. The problem is that this high is fleeting, and the more someone chases it, the more they start to rely on external attention to feel complete. Even people in strong, loving relationships are not immune to this. It's easy to confuse the excitement of external admiration with genuine fulfillment. The thrill of attention can make ordinary moments feel extraordinary, and ordinary people feel extraordinary. A compliment from someone else can spark a sense of validation that seems more intense than what they regularly receive from their partner, simply because it's new, unexpected, or forbidden in a sense. The mind starts to crave that rush repeatedly, and over time, the behavior becomes habitual. It's no longer just about seeking reassurance. It's about chasing a fleeting high that gives temporary feelings of importance, desirability, and even power. The thrill of attention also taps into human nature. We are wired to seek acknowledgement and approval, and when external attention provides an easy and immediate form of gratification, it becomes tempting to chase. This can create inner conflict because while someone may love their partner deeply, the excitement and novelty of being admired by others can stir curiosity, longing, or even restlessness. The danger lies in the fact that these small moments of external validation, though harmless at first, can start to shape behavior patterns. Someone might begin to unconsciously compare the attention they receive from others to the love in their relationship, or they might start seeking more frequent boosts to recreate that fleeting thrill. Underlying the thrill of attention is a deeper need, often tied to insecurity, low self esteem, or past experiences of neglect, but it manifests as a seemingly superficial craving for admiration. This makes it confusing because, on the surface, it can look like a desire for casual validation or harmless attention, while underneath, it is a symptom of unmet emotional or psychological needs. The more someone indulges in this thrill, the more it reinforces the idea that self worth is dependent on being noticed, praised, or desired by others. Fear of vulnerability is one of the most powerful yet often unspoken reasons why people seek validation outside their relationships. Being vulnerable requires opening your heart completely, exposing your insecurities, fears, and deepest emotions to someone else, and that can feel terrifying. Vulnerability means risking judgment, disappointment, or rejection, and for many, that risk feels too heavy to bear. It's far easier to present a strong, composed exterior or to seek reassurance from others who don't know them deeply than to show their true selves to someone who already matters. The irony is that the people who love them the most are often the ones they protect themselves from emotionally, fearing that showing their raw, authentic self might make them unworthy of love. This fear creates a paradox. People want closeness, intimacy, and acceptance, yet they hold back the parts of themselves that crave it the most. Instead of expressing their needs and insecurities to their partner, they might unconsciously look for small affirmations from outside sources, someone who can admire them from a distance without the risk of truly knowing their flaws or deepest vulnerabilities. External validation feels safer because it doesn't demand emotional exposure. It provides acknowledgement without the possibility of rejection. In this way, fear of vulnerability subtly drives behavior, influencing people to seek connection or approval from others, even when their relationship is healthy and loving. Fear of vulnerability also creates patterns of self protection that can be hard to recognize. People may overanalyze conversations, hide true feelings, or mask their insecurities with humor or charm. They might flirt with external attention or linger on compliments from strangers, not because they want to replace their partner, but because it allows them to feel valued while keeping their emotional walls intact. This pattern is rarely conscious at first. It develops over time as a coping mechanism to avoid the discomfort of emotional exposure. Even small instances of vulnerability can trigger anxiety, making external validation feel like a safer, easier option. At its core, fear of vulnerability is about self preservation, but it also highlights a longing for acceptance. It is a reminder that emotional intimacy requires courage, the courage to let someone in fully, to show the parts of ourselves we fear are unlovable, and to trust that we will still be embraced despite our flaws. Until this fear is acknowledged and addressed, the tendency to seek validation outside the relationship will continue, quietly shaping thoughts, actions, and emotional responses. When we look closely at why people seek validation outside relationships, we realize it's never really about the other person. It's about the relationship we have with ourselves. Insecurity, low self esteem, unmet emotional needs, people pleasing habits, the thrill of attention, and fear of vulnerability all point to one truth. True fulfillment comes from within. No amount of external admiration, approval, or attention can replace the sense of worth and completeness that originates from self love and self acceptance. Relationships can be beautiful, supportive, and loving, but they cannot heal what we refuse to face within ourselves. Seeking validation elsewhere might feel like a solution, a temporary escape, or even harmless fun, but it is also a signal. It is a reminder that we need to nurture ourselves, confront our fears, and embrace our imperfections. When we start validating our own feelings, acknowledging our worth, and allowing ourselves to be fully seen, that restlessness fades. The journey isn't easy. It requires honesty, courage, and patience. It means saying to yourself, I am enough, I am worthy, I deserve love, and I can trust myself. And when we reach that point, relationships transform from being a source of insecurity or doubt into a space of trust, safety, and genuine connection. External validation loses its power because we no longer rely on it. We have built a foundation of self love strong enough to withstand fleeting attention or temporary approval. Ultimately, understanding why we seek validation outside our relationships is not about blame, it's about awareness. It's about realizing that the love we give ourselves shapes the love we receive. And the most meaningful relationships are the ones where both people are whole, secure, and complete on their own, yet choose each other every day.